If you'd told me that one ordinary car ride home would rattle the bones of my quiet, well-behaved life, I would have smiled, shaken my head, and gone back to arranging the dessert plates. It was just a chilly evening, a family gathering, a polite offer from my cousin's son to give me a lift. Nothing unusual, nothing dramatic. But then we hit a red light. He rested his hands on the steering wheel, looked over at me with a seriousness I wasn't used to from him, and asked me a question no one, in nearly 60 years, had ever dared to ask. A question that yanked the rug out from under every excuse I'd ever made for myself. By the time we stopped in front of my building, he hadn't just dropped me off at my door. He'd delivered me to the edge of a truth I'd been sidestepping for decades. Before I tell you what he said, do something for me. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Are you in Los Angeles, Atlanta, Seattle? Maybe some small town with one main street and a single traffic light. Let me know your city, because this story, it could have happened outside your house, in your family, on your block. My name is Diane. I'm 59. And for as long as I can remember, I've been the responsible one. The one who makes the pies from scratch, who remembers every birthday without Facebook reminders, who stays behind to rinse the glasses and stack the chairs while everyone else buttons their coats and heads home. If there's a missing seat at the table, I'm the one who stands so no one else has to. That night, though, I was tired in a way that doesn't show in photographs. Not the "my feet hurt" kind of tired, but the quiet exhaustion that settles inside your ribs, the kind that makes your bones feel heavy. We had just finished celebrating my cousin Angela's birthday. Her house buzzed the way it always does during gatherings. Kids running through rooms, someone shouting from the kitchen for more napkins, plates clinking, a football game murmuring on the TV. I'd stood shoulder to shoulder with her at the sink, our hands pruning in the dishwater as we joked about how our fingers now looked older than our faces. My son had left early. He needed to get back to his own kids. My ex-husband, as usual, existed only as a line in an old chapter we never reopened. When I reached for my coat hanging by the door, Angela's boy, well, not a boy anymore, stepped up beside me. "Aunt Di, you're taking the bus again?" he asked. I looked up at him and was struck by that strange sensation only people past 50 truly understand. In my mind, Ryan was still the lanky teenager who knocked over soda cans and scrambled to clean them up. But the person standing in front of me was very clearly a man. Broad shoulders, calm posture, car keys twirling lightly around his finger. His hair had that slightly messy, deliberate look younger men favor now, and there was a faint shadow of stubble along his jaw. "I'll be fine," I said automatically. "It's just one bus. I don't mind the fresh air." He glanced toward the front door with a wry smile. "Fresh air. It's November, Aunt Diane. The wind is fighting people out there." I laughed. "I've survived worse." He tilted his head, eyes steady. "Come on, let me drive you. I'm heading that way anyway. No sense in you waiting out in the cold." There it was. My first instinct rose right on cue. Say no. Don't be a bother. Don't inconvenience anyone. Don't take more than what's absolutely necessary. But he didn't look impatient. He didn't look like a man doing a favor just to brag about it later. He just stood there, open and relaxed, offering help because it was the right thing to do. "All right," I exhaled. "If you're sure." "I'm sure," he said, with that easy smile. "Get your scarf. I'll pull the car around." He outside. The cold hit my cheeks like a firm reminder that winter was just around the corner. Streetlights cast soft yellow rings along the sidewalk, and the wind pushed dry leaves in slow spirals, like tired dancers at the end of a night. When he pulled up, headlights gliding over the curb, I opened the passenger door. The dashboard lights glowed softly, and the faint scent of pine, one of those little hanging air fresheners, met me as I slid into the seat. If you're close to my age, you'll understand this part. Even sitting down becomes something you do with intention, with a small sound at the back of your throat you pretend no one hears. "Seatbelt," Ryan said, tapping the strap across his own chest. "We're both too old to be flying through windshields." I chuckled. "Speak for yourself, you're not even 40. "Close enough?" He grinned. "And you're what now, 58? 59. I corrected. Don't you dare steal one of my hard-earned years. He laughed, then eased away from the curb. At first, the ride was what you'd expect. Comfortable. Familiar. The kind of talk that lives between two people who have known each other most of their lives. We chatted about traffic, about his job, about how tall his kids were getting, how he was trying to cut back on takeout but still ended up with pizza more than he'd admit. I looked out the window and watched the city roll by. Closed shop fronts, a man locking up a liquor store, a couple walking close together, shoulders tucked in from the wind. It struck me then how rarely anyone drove me anywhere. I was always the driver, the planner, the one making sure everyone got home safely. Sitting in the passenger seat felt foreign, like I had stepped into a different version of my own life. One where I could, just for a little while, relax my grip on the steering wheel and let someone else know the way. You look different lately, Ryan said, breaking a lull in the conversation. Quieter. I turned my head. Quieter than what? Quieter than you used to be. He said, matter of fact. I remember you as the loud one, the one telling stories at the table, the first one to start dancing when music came on. I smiled faintly. That was a long time ago. He glanced over briefly, then back at the road. Yeah, but you're still you. But his words settled between us with a weight I didn't expect. I couldn't pinpoint the exact moment I'd become the woman who smiled politely and let others talk, rather than the one who lit up a room with her own stories, somewhere in the divorce, the late bills, the empty nest, the quiet nights with only the television murmuring in the corner. Life changes you, I said eventually. Or where's, you replied gently. We rolled up to a red light. The car hummed softly beneath us, a low, steady vibration. In the dark window, my reflection stared back, fine lines near my mouth, the gentle slump at my jawline, the silver strands around my temple. I kept telling myself I'd color, one of these days. Ryan tapped his fingers absently on the steering wheel. Then he drew in a breath. Can I ask you something, Aunt Dee? He said. And will you be really honest? Something in his tone made my heart tug. It wasn't the casual voice he used when he asked about a recipe or a good mechanic. It was more careful. Depends on the question, I said, trying to sound playful. He didn't smile this time. His eyes stayed on the red light, but his jaw tightened just a little. I mean it, he said. I've been wanting to ask for a while, but it felt like I didn't have the right. But tonight, watching you at the house, I don't think I can pretend I don't see it anymore. You're scaring me, Rye, I said, half joking. He gave a tiny shake of his head. I don't want to scare you, I just need to ask. The light turned green, but there were no cars behind us yet. No horns urging us on. Just that open stretch of road ahead, waiting. He eased his foot back on the gas, and as we started rolling, he said it. Aunt Diane, when did you decide you don't deserve to be happy anymore? For a heartbeat, all the air seemed to leave my body. Of all the questions I'd braced for, are you seeing anyone? Is it hard living alone? That wasn't one of them. That question had sharp edges. It sliced clean through all the polite talk and straight into the place I tried never to look at. I stared at him, stunned. The city outside our windows blurred as if we'd driven through rain, though the glass was clear. What? I managed. He glanced back at me quickly, then at the road again. His voice was calm, but there was a rawness in it I hadn't heard before. When did you decide that? He repeated softly. That what's left of your life is just bills and cleaning up after everyone, making sure we're all fed and fine, and then going home alone to wash your dishes and tell yourself you're okay. When did you decide you don't get anything that's just for you? I wanted to be offended. I wanted to say, how dare you? He was, technically speaking, still the kid in the family in my mind. Who was he to dissect my choices? But under that flash of indignation was something quieter, something that sounded a lot like, he's not wrong. That's an outrageous thing to ask a woman, I said, though my voice sounded thin, even to my own ears. I know, he said. That's why nobody ever does. So you keep living like this, and we all applaud you for being so strong, so giving, so fine. We drove under a bridge, and the world outside dimmed for a second, then brightened again as we emerged. I turned my face toward the window so he wouldn't see the tears stinging my eyes. "I never's decided it," I said after a while. "It just happened. Life rolled on. I took care of what needed taking care of, and somewhere in there I stopped asking myself what I wanted." He nodded slowly. "That's exactly what I'm talking about." We were quiet for a bit. The heater blew warm air at my knees. I realized my hand was clenched so tight around my handbag that my knuckles hurt. "You know," he said, voice softer now, "I remember you differently. I remember you putting music on in the kitchen and dancing with a spoon in your hand. I remember you piling us kids into your car and taking us down to the river for ice cream just because the weather was nice. I remember Grandpa telling you to act your age and you just laughing and dancing harder." A reluctant smile found its way to my lips. "Your grandfather always cared more about propriety than about joy. And you always proved him wrong," Ryan said. "You showed me adults could be alive, not just exhausted." His words sank in, warm and painful at the same time. I had forgotten that version of myself so thoroughly that hearing it described felt like he was talking about a stranger. "The divorce took a lot out of me," I admitted, "and after your uncle left and my son moved out, the house got too quiet. I started counting my days in chores and TV shows instead of plans." He swallowed. I saw his throat move in the glow of a passing streetlight. "I see you," he said quietly. "Every Christmas, every birthday, every Sunday dinner. You're the first in the kitchen, the last to sit down. You're smiling, laughing, making sure everyone else has what they need. But sometimes, when you think nobody's paying attention, you get this faraway look, like your mind is someplace else entirely." I didn't think anyone had noticed that. That sense of standing at the edge of a room, my body there, my spirit off somewhere remembering what it felt like to be desired, to be chosen just because someone wanted me beside them, not because they needed my help. "I didn't want to burden anyone," I said. "Everyone has their own worries. Your mom's health, your work, the kids. Who wants to hear a 59-year-old woman complain that she feels invisible?" "I do," he said at once. "I want to hear it." I turned, really looked at him, hands steady on the wheel, eyes bright and a little shiny. "Why?" I asked. "Because you matter," he said simply. "Because when I was going through hell at 17, you were the one who let me sit at your kitchen table and talk until 2 in the morning. You never made me feel dumb or dramatic. You listened. You always have. And now I watch you do the same thing for everyone else, but I don't see anyone doing it for you." His honesty slipped past all the little stories I've told myself over the years, like, "This is just how it is now. I had my chance. It's enough to be useful." And beneath those stories, there was another truth, one I'd been too afraid to look at somewhere along the way. I had quietly decided wanting more was selfish, or foolish, or impossible. We turned onto my street. Familiar buildings slid into view, the late-night pharmacy with its flickering sign, the bakery with its shutters already pulled down. "Let me ask you again," he said, slowing as we approached my building. "Honestly, this time. When did you decide you don't deserve to be happy?" I took a long, uneven breath. "I don't think there was one moment," I said. "Maybe it was the night my ex told me I was too old for the dress I wore. Maybe it was when my son started calling less and needing me less. Maybe it was when the first man I tried to date afterward disappeared without explanation because my age scared him. Maybe it was all of those stacked on top of each other." I stared straight ahead at the dim outline of my steps. "So I started shrinking?" I continued. Less talking, less laughing too loud, less expecting. It felt safer. "But not better," he said. "No," I admitted. "Not better." He pulled up outside my building and put the car in park. The engine idled beneath us. He didn't reach for his seat belt. He just turned his head slightly toward me. "Can I be blunt?" he asked. A small raw laugh slipped out. "Have you not been blunt enough already?" He smiled. Then his face grew serious again. "You are one of the most alive people I've ever known," he said. "Even now, I see it when you taste good food, when you talk about songs you love, when you tell old stories and forget to censor yourself. That spark. It's not gone. It's just hiding under all the shoulds people piled on you. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. I let it. And what exactly am I supposed to do with this spark? I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. At 59. Where do I start? He shrugged gently, not dismissing the question, but looking at it with me. Maybe you don't have to start with something big, he said. Maybe you just start with one thing that's yours. A class. A trip, joining a choir. Letting yourself say yes when people offer kindness instead of waving it away. Just stop acting like you don't get any more chapters. I studied his face. This man I'd once seen cry over a broken toy was sitting here now, offering me a kind of permission I hadn't realized I was waiting for. Why does it matter so much to you? I asked. He looked at me steadily. Because if you give up on yourself, he said, after everything you've survived, what hope do the rest of us have when we're your age? I laughed softly in spite of myself. So I'm your test case? You're our proof it's not over, he corrected, smiling. We sat there in the soft glow of the dashboard, the quiet of the street wrapping around the car. You asked me something unthinkable tonight, I said. And you didn't make me feel judged. You made me feel seen. I'm not used to that anymore. You should be, he said. You deserve to hear those things every day, not just in my beat-up car. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air felt warm, even with the chill seeping through the glass. He leaned a little closer. Not close enough to cross any line, but close enough that I could hear the careful weight in his voice. One more question, he said quietly. I nodded. If life handed you a second chance to feel fully alive again, he asked, would you take it? The question wasn't about him. Not directly. It was about me. I'm scared, I said honestly. Me too, he replied. Everyone is. The fear doesn't matter as much as this. Are you done living? I thought of my small apartment upstairs. The worn couch, the same shows, the same meals, the same safe smallness. No, I whispered. I don't want to be done. A slow, relieved smile softened his face. Good, he said. He turned the key and the engine hummed a little louder. If you ever want company, he added, for coffee, a walk, trying something new, you can call me. Not because you can't do it alone, but because you shouldn't always have to. Thank you, Ryan, I said, my voice thick, for driving me home, and for all of this. I always saw you, he said. You just stopped seeing yourself. I opened the door and the cold reached in again. This time, it didn't feel like an attack. It felt crisp, honest. As I stepped out, he called after me, take your second chance, Diane. Whatever it looks like for you. You've earned that much. I stood on the sidewalk and watched his car disappear down the street. Then I turned and went inside. I didn't turn on the television. I didn't head straight for the sink. I sat down on the edge of my couch, still wrapped in my coat, and let the quiet surround me. His question settled into the room like a guest that wasn't going to leave until I acknowledged it. When did you decide you don't deserve to be happy? Life, for the first time in a very long while, I didn't slam the door in its face. Over the days that followed, small things began to shift. I signed up for a painting class at the community center, something I'd once wanted to do and always put off. I bought a red scarf instead of another gray one. I started saying yes when neighbors invited me for coffee instead of claiming I was busy. None of it was dramatic. No whirlwind romance. No impulsive move across the world. Just one quiet decision after another to step back into my own life rather than stand on the sidelines of everyone else's. And in each of those tiny steps, I could hear his voice, not as a man tempting me to cross a line, but as someone holding up a lantern on a dark path, saying, keep going. You're allowed to be here. That ride home didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the years of putting myself last. But it did something just as important. It woke me up. And now, if you're listening to this and seeing yourself in any of my words, maybe this is your question too. If life quietly slid a second chance across the table toward you, would you take it? Or would you push it back and say, Not for someone my age. I don't have all the answers. But I know this: that chilly evening, in a hand-me-down car, a younger man I love handed me the courage to ask for more from my own life. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not just going along for the ride. I'm deciding where I want to go.